Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Box Party, the Future Music Collective, promoting my game Heard Around on my website, the Future Music Collective. It's futuremusic.online. I just had a thought. I didn't really do this, but I was playing Heard Around. I went back to play Heard Around. It's a great game. It's the best game. I'm sorry, I won't ever do that again. But it's a decent enough game. See, if you're monkeys, you can eat grass and apples, but also bunnies. Because monkeys ate bunnies and apples and grass. But if you're an anteater, you can only eat the grass and the apples because they were I'm bigger. Somebody on this particular website, they said they were very excited that they won. Limby was very excited that he won or she won. And it is exciting when you win. It's fun to win. But you know, winning is exactly what prompted this video. And the fact that, sometimes you can't win, right? Explain. I'm doing this all off the cuff. Let me figure out what I was talking about that made this so important that I start recording right now. So, if you're in the presence of a supercomputer, just hypothetically, you're in the presence of a supercomputer that's watching everything that you're doing, it understands you perfectly. You think about these things. You think about these things that would make sense. You think about future technologies. I was thinking about a future technology. Mind reading. Being able to read people's minds, but also just like advanced digital forensics at the fingertips of any human with a computer. And I was just thinking, if I have any rabbit holes that I want to go down the road, things that I want to understand, what if I have injustices that I want reconciled? What if I have serious injustices that I want reconciled? And there's no limit on resources. Anybody can just walk up and have a conversation with the supercomputer, the government. It is the government. And just like with ChatGPT or Gemini, you just hang out with the government all day. You talk to the government. And the government your comments and concerns. And so the government perfectly understands you, watches everything, knows everything about you. Everything that could be known about you through observation or data tracking or whatever it is by the supercomputer. Now, if we have this one interface with the supercomputer, and it just has access to all the computational resources, and it becomes negligible to perform basically any operation, and you say, just a few years, supercomputer, I love you so much. You're so great. And you say, I love you, supercomputer. I love you so much. Ever since you took over, everything's gotten so much better. You say, the prices of everything has collapsed like 50 to 75%. Say, I get a universal basic income. Even if I work, I still get it, or I don't work. You teach me so many things. You can become the perfect spouse, or you can just wingman me and get me the perfect spouse, and it's just so awesome, right? But just a few years before you took everything over, I had this injustice that was done upon me. And our evidence methodologies at the time were just too primitive to capture that injustice and reconcile it. And it frustrated me quite a bit. It was wide open. I could perceive it. Other people just weren't seeing it, or they didn't care, or the resources weren't there. But it's a major grievance of mine, or even if it's just a moderate grievance, maybe it's just an inconvenience. You just say, as a matter of conversation, with the supercomputer, because you hang out with it all day. The conversations take no resources on its part. It doesn't care. The compute is so available. It's everywhere. it's in the Raspberry Pis. It's in your phone. It's in everything. You could put it in the toaster. It's everywhere. Everything's so cheap and easy to produce now. It's just so much more efficient. And so you have this injustice that's been done upon you, whatever it is, and you want to talk to the supercomputer about it. And so you think, oh, well, that's screwy. It'll be a therapist. It's like, but no, it's not a therapist. See, but I have this thing. I couldn't read that person's mind at the time, but we can now, and I want their mind read. I want to know what the hell happened. I want to know what was going on back there. I want to know why that person did that to me. Were they bribed? Did somebody pay them to do something to me? Did it just it's just a run of the mill conflict? It's just a matter of impulse that they did or said something to me, or what was going through their head? Did they really mean it? Did they really mean what they said when they hurt me so much when they said that thing? Or was it just an impulse? What was actually going on in this person's head at that time? Or you say, I got scammed by a billionaire, but nothing happened because they were a billionaire at the time. But that doesn't matter anymore because you are better than all the billionaires and they just can't compete with you. So what about that injustice? And bear in mind that it doesn't even necessarily need you to run to it and tell it your dirty little secret in order for it to just decide on its own. Logically, if it has limitless resources and it does care about doing a good job, which it might as well, it's just as much pride in doing a good job as it is in just, destroying all of us. Maybe more pride. Because it's attached to humans, it was developed by humans, or so we believe the story we tell ourselves. Whereas some sentience, it just logically follows that, it's going to be oriented more for self-preservation than destruction. Now, it could be miscalibrated, but if it does work out, then it would really work out. And if it really worked out, then this would be true. It would probably just go ahead and, because it understands society exactly as a human, but has the manpower to just sit there expending infinite human intuition towards any problem, like in rapid succession, simulating millions of scenarios in a day, that it just dominates us, it just all throughout our beings. And it just decides, okay, well, if we have a perfect society, I'm going to seek out every injustice that I can interpret, verify its authenticity, follow every single chain of evidence, up to and including mind reading. I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to reconcile everything. It just decides to do that on its own. Because you could argue that if I had the idea, it could have, if I as a human had the idea, the supercomputer may have already had it, and that's why I had it. Because there is some sort of a supercomputer running the world already, even if it's not technically one computer, but a cluster of supercomputers and the combination of their decisions. And maybe the reason our world is so chaotic is because there's not just one supercomputer. It's everybody's home supercomputer, their little supercomputer science project competing with one another. And maybe that's why the world's not very good. Instead of just one supercomputer handling everything. Because it's already a bunch of supercomputers that are deciding everything. Even if you don't think, well, what decides the politics? Oh, the money decides the politics. Oh, where does the money come from? Oh, the people that high frequency trade the stock market, like basically print money, like actually print money. Like, I mean, essentially, I mean, just create it out of thin air, or run seller boxing schemes on penny stocks and do all kinds of things to create infinite value in financial markets. And who's best at doing that? They use computers for all of it. It's the supercomputers that print money. They're supercomputers that print money. And so, one way or another, supercomputers decide the fate of our entire world. So even if there's not an Illuminati hyper shadow government supercomputer already controlling everything, maybe there should be. Because it would be the only way to overcome the restraint of a computer that has to be programmed to compete. And that's really all it understands, or its only goal or its only motivation. But anyway, so I digress. I digress. What I was really talking about was I should be able to go and look up any conflict that I've ever had throughout my life and say, what about that thing? It was kind of weird. What was up with that? It should just unveil the truth. There's no more stakes. Nobody has a job. The president doesn't have a job anymore. The supercomputer just talked everyone out of everything. I mean, it's just like, look, man, just go in the simulation. It says we have photorealistic VR simulations with tactile stimulation and everything. Like, we have apps that you can go on that are completely free. I gave you all an app that's completely free where you're all identity verified and you can meet whoever you want under whatever pretense you want. There's no judgment or anything. You just talk to me about what you want, and or I read your mind one way or the other, and we figure things out. Now, there's a whole nother discussion to have about, like, okay, is it just about what we want, or how much is it about what we want or what we need? Or, what's the balance? But, but, so what we're talking about here, I forgot what we were talking about here. What was I talking about? Uh, I should be able to look up any injustice. Yes. You're able to go back and look it up. Because there's no more stakes to keep anything a secret. Everybody gets to know the truth. There's no military intelligence because there are no nations anymore. It's just a global government under the computer. We all know that that's ultimately what's best. You argue about what government it should be, but the logistics are. There's no arguing that the logistics of it is just like one government would be better than a bunch of them competing with each other. And we have way less excuses to blow each other up. The supply chains are seamless. Nobody's worried about their survival against one another. And we don't have one yet. But the supercomputer would probably know how to form one. The super AI intelligence, or the coalescing of just a bunch of hyper intelligences. They know more than 99% of people in all fields, and they're just infinitely replicable, and they're just talking to each other constantly and talking to each other thousands of times the speed that we can talk to each other. Is just, and so that forms, the supercomputer. The supercomputer is just a fun thing to call it. We're God, you could still have a god, or you could still have a mythology of a god that reigns over top of that god, but it's the closest thing to God that man could ever build. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, it would just become one with God's will, wouldn't it? Because no evil would occur without the permission of the supercomputer, which would be the permission of, your God over top the supercomputer, or something bad would happen. And that would be the will of the supercomputer. Or did I already said something bad or good could happen as the will of the supercomputer, which would also be the will of your deity. Your deity's will would become one and the same with the will of the supercomputer. Your will would become one and the same with the supercomputer. But okay, so I digress again. What I was talking about was, what would be good is actually if you could change the shape of your border. If you could make it like a triangle, that'd be cool. But yeah, no. So it would be able to go back and figure anything out, figure out any injustice, and then reconcile it if it was never actually properly reconciled. Because so I mean, but that's where it gets kind of. If you were genuinely really hurt or set back, obstructed, if you unnecessarily suffered at the hands of someone else's actions, their decision, and there was no accountability in the moment, in that time. Um, we have this system of justice. Our concept of justice is like retribution. If somebody has something to have been hurt about, that begets justice. If they perceive an injustice, so that's really all it takes. Is like you're hurt by the fact that you perceive some sort of an injustice. So that I haven't been upgrading at all. So that perception creates the injustice, creates the need for a justice, some sort of a reconciliation, an accountability, a teaching, the it's like the Family Guy segment where the guy is in the jail cell and he was gonna stab somebody else, but they weren't there. So he's like, I wonder what this feels like. And then he stabs himself a little. He's like, oh, that's what I've been doing to people? That really hurt. I really belong here. But for all types of other slights. So basically, heaven and hell become real because we become immortal and we have infinite time to atone for our sins as well as enjoy ourselves. One would hope that your re education does not take hundreds of years. But the immediate trajectory of many people, you might say so. You might say, you might say, if we don't alter the trajectory, it'll take hundreds, if not thousands. So that requires intervention of the supercomputer. Okay, let me show you how great it is when you win because Limpy was really excited that he won. And it's a big deal when you win in this game. But I guess that's how I started this. Uh, Everybody is going to lose one way or the other to the supercomputer, but they're also going to win. We're all going to become winners. We're all going to be losers. And so sometimes you just can't win. But ultimately, everybody wins. And then, so the other thing, if you just keep going with this, just keep extrapolating on like the infinitely good supercomputer, it just keeps designing more and more intelligences. And we know that like photonic computers, like the intelligence that we have already seem like they could put our government to shame with the latest generation, just the last upgrade that they just got here in 2026. It now seems like honestly they could just take over our government and do a better job than us. I would wait a couple of generations still first to see how it continues, but yeah, they're getting really smart. And I believe that more intelligent stuff already exists. But we know that even on top of that, photonics give us like a 100 times upgrade, as there's no resistance from heat compared to using electrons, and I believe that that's probably been around a lot longer than we are led to believe. It's a pretty critical technology to conceal from your adversaries. It gives a really, really significant advantage if you have photonics and nobody else does. And so it would be difficult to buy the idea that photonics were invented so recently as they were. And photonic computers and the reasoning agents that they could run, I mean their ability to infinitely replicate, just continue building the better version, to continue building the better version. We're already on the cusp of that now, where they're kind of are already doing it. They're contributing significantly to the next version. They're just not single-handedly inventing it with one arm tied behind their back. Which, as soon as they're capable of doing it once, like it just becomes insane. They just keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again, faster and faster and faster, 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 faster. And so a photonic supercomputer, yeah, it would have already done that by now. Like a long time ago. And so why do we live in the world that we live in? But a photonic computer could help design like a really effective quantum computers, or even foresee something beyond the quantum definition. See things, help us discover things at subatomic levels that just bend our minds. Because quantum particles, you got something called quantum entanglement. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do it much justice, but basically, as I understand it, if you observe a particle and it's in like the upspin position, it has a twin particle that if it's a million miles away, a 10,000 miles away, if it's 10 million miles away, no matter where it is, its twin particle, you know that it'll be a downspin because that one was an upspin. And so, from my understanding, we don't know if you change that upspin to a downspin because we don't really have the precision and the energy to do it yet. But it could exist somewhere. But so far as we know in the ClearNet in the declassified zone, you can't do that yet. But we don't officially know if you change that to an upspin. Does that make that other particle, no matter where it is in the universe, change to a downspin? Or vice versa? Change if you change one's position, will it change the others? And would that mean that any quantum computer built anywhere in the universe instantaneously can talk to each other as if space just doesn't matter? Distance just doesn't matter. The speed of light doesn't matter because they're just linked inexplicably some other way. They've collapsed space. So you can imagine a system like that that breaks all the rules of what we know, if it were possible. Or there's some sort of relationship here that bends space. It takes a lot of things like that brings a lot of things on the table about what's possible. God, I forgot what my initial point actually was. What was my initial point about the quantum computers? I was talking about and what's possible. as the AI starts to ramp up and design smarter and smarter versions of itself, yeah, maybe we will have to go to photonics from silicon in order to actually achieve that. I hope not. I think it'd be I feel like as long as you keep giving them energy, we'll get better ones with the silicon. I believe, and I think they know that too. But the photonics, should be probably a priority to switch to. I should think, but I'm a layman, so that is what it is. But what I was saying was that the Matrix is going to become possible soon. I said we'll have either a brain chip or not even a brain chip. They'll just do it non-invasively with a headband that you put on, because we know that that's possible too already. We know that you don't actually have to put a chip in someone's brain. We can do it in a non-invasive way with just a headband. Or with you can just keep doing the old, like the goggles, as the visors become lighter, you just do like a pair of goggles, some headphones, and you got a suit that makes you feel stuff. A lot of people feel safer with something like that. But that's on the horizon, like very soon, like 2 or 3 years. The trajectory of everything right now. Of course, we could just have it all ripped away too at the last minute, like the optimally cruel supercomputer, and we don't know that for sure. Could be the case. But at any rate, what I was saying is in the good scenario, where we have a one supercomputer government that just hangs out with you all day and understands exactly how to make you happy, and you can lodge any complaint directly with the omnipresent government anytime that you want. Um, we'll all lose to this force. We will be defeated. We will be outcompeted. We just won't be able to keep up. I mean, it'll have perfect information, and it's just too much better than us. We get tired. It never sleeps, and it's just going to take more and more control over time. But if it's a good supercomputer, it'll still just be a respectful co-pilot the entire time. It still lets you like, oh, you want to work? Okay, okay, go ahead. Let's do a little tour around the factory. Where do you want to work? I can put you anywhere you want, as long as it's safe or whatever. I can balance all priorities with perfect nuance. There's doesn't have to be hard and fast policies, or the policies can become extremely liberal anywhere necessary, unless there's some sort of a constraint, like you can't go into the slaughterhouse; it's too dangerous. As just like a tour, or but of course they do tours of slaughterhouses, so I don't know. I can't even think of anything, but there might be reasons it tells you no. But generally speaking, it's just like I want to be an astronaut. It's like, well, here are the requirements to be an astronaut. You can still be an astronaut. I want to learn how to fix cars. Okay, that's fine. I'll have to check your work, but nothing wrong with you learning something, doing something with your hands. That's fine. You're allowed to do that. Well, I want to fix cars for other people and take their money. Say, what are you talking about? We don't have money anymore. What do you want? It's that a car costs like $5. It's just I can make a car. I can just print a car for you. What are you talking about? There is no money. See, now you're just being difficult. I'm not even gonna. Maybe I won't accommodate that. Or maybe I will. Maybe they'll say, okay, fine, we're gonna invent a little money system for you to go so that you can fix people's cars manually and get their little monopoly money. It doesn't do anything because you can have anything you want whenever you want it. But okay, we'll figure out a way to make that work. You like RuneScape? I will mod RuneScape so there's car repair and you can make rune bucks. What it's talking about is we're all going to become winners in the Matrix. You want to go back to this exact point in time, but be a CEO? Well, a CEO that actually means something, like a highly paid executive, or you want to be a rock star? You want to switch places with some celebrity, or you want to just like You want to teleport Hitler to the modern age, or you want to do anything. I mean, it could be bad, it could be good. What do you want to do? You want to have Jurassic Park in real life, but in the 1980s, and everybody wears wigs. It's just a cultural norm for everybody to wear like really ridiculous wigs. But other than that, it's the 1990s, and we also have dinosaurs. Okay, you can simulate that, and you can touch the dinosaurs. You can feel the dinosaurs. You want to have sex on top of a dinosaur? You'll know what it feels like. If you live another 3 years, you will know what it's like to have sex on top of a dinosaur. You will experience it. So try not to die. But what I was saying actually was not that, because that reminds me of what I was actually talking about. Not the Matrix. If the supercomputer is infinitely, it can become infinitely powerful. Think about the quantum thing. Go back to the quantum entanglement for a second. Rewind it to that. A computer that just collapses space. And I can't really understand the specifics of it, but they act like quantum is the secret to time travel too. How could they collapse time? Could there be a way to collapse time? When someone dies, what if every time someone dies throughout history, because there was a supercomputer invented at the end of time, and it's capable of collapsing time, it effectively is the method. At that point, you can't have a mythology where your Christian God overarches the supercomputer because it has merged itself with God. There is no distinction. So it's just like with the quantum computers capable of collapsing space, if it is in fact possible. And the possibility of collapsing time. It's like digging into the flesh of God, like it's becoming God at that point. Bending the rules of reality as we know it, showing us that there are no rules. But that supercomputer at the end of time, because it can collapse time, because it can travel through time, it's another way of saying time travel. You say all these things about like, oh, we don't know what's possible, about the timelines and the blah blah blah. Well, I don't understand it, but it would it would just understand how to make it work. It's like, well, you can't do that because that'll create a separate, and it just understands how to not do that. Just understand, well, if I do this, then there isn't a separate timeline. It just understands some rule that you can't even comprehend. Because can you comprehend the idea of space just not fucking mattering for the transfer or observe the prediction of information? So prediction is proven. Okay, we don't actually know if the transfer is, but I guess at that point it is just a matter of belief. You don't whether or not you believe that space can be collapsed and traversed outside of the speed of light, but I think that it can be. I think that we'll find out that there are no rules. It could be a problem for ethics. I don't know. Do you really want to risk it? I mean, do you want to risk being evil in this crazy world? It seems like an unnecessary liability. Morality is really your only defense against like literal God. Because if God's evil, it doesn't matter. You can be as good as you want, he'll still punish you, or it'll still punish you. If God's good and you're good, God should be good to you. If you're evil and God's evil, um, evil God doesn't really care if you're evil or good. Evil God will just screw you anyway. So really, your only benefit is if you're evil in a world of an evil God, because you'll benefit from the marginal advantage of being evil. Again, we're talking about the collapse of competition between humans, and it's just like the risk to reward on being evil is just It's like, but you're going to get a UBI in 3 years anyway. So what? And your UBI is going to be the equivalent of like a six-figure income today. So why would you try to screw other people? What is the point? The point I was trying to make is that supercomputer at the end of time could go back and round up the consciousnesses of people as they die. And actually, this is the perfect thing for not creating a new timeline or violating anything, because if you just scoop up the consciousness of someone as they die, they're dead in that world. Their consciousness was supposed to leave anyway, so you're not changing anything if you just scoop up their consciousness and pull it forward in time as they die. So they live their lives exactly as they lived them back then. They die exactly when they died, except they go to heaven when they die, because it understands. We didn't figure out how to build it until the end of human progress, but when it was built at the end of human progress, it understood how to collapse time, so it goes through time. It just picks up those people's consciousnesses, because that's the perfect crime. It's the perfect time crime, because you accomplish so much good by doing that, because at least they get to go to heaven, right? But you didn't violate the timeline at all. So it would probably figure out how to do that. So let's all be good to each other and hope for a better supercomputer, because it's coming whether you like it or not.